Good afternoon, traders and investors. Will back here with another one, coming to you with a Saturday evening video. Hopefully everybody is doing very well. And in today's video, guys, we're going to take a look at some subscriber requests, part of a new series that we're going to start doing every single Saturday, where I take pretty much the subscriber tickers that were given to me in the comment section in the weekly daily market recap videos every Monday to Friday after the close. So we have quite a few of them today. And my goal for today's video, guys, is to provide about 2-3 minutes each stock here. And we're going to be doing a very brief fundamental analysis of the company, very brief, guys, and then dive into some technical analysis and where I would potentially take some swing trades on these companies. Now, keep in mind, guys, even though I used to do this for a living for high net worth individuals, none of anything that's said in this video is going to be personalized financial advice for you. It's just going to be how I am going to play these trades if I had to make positions in them. So with that out of the way, guys, let's get right into today's video. And I just wanted to go over a few ground rules as to what we're looking for here. So always keep in mind, this may seem self-evident here, but we need to be reminded of it a few times. A stock's price is always a reflection of future earnings and future cash flows. So when you see me put so much emphasis, guys, on EPS and free cash flow, it really does matter, because that is what's going to grow the stock price in the future. If the company is not growing earnings or free cash flow, do not expect the stock price to go anywhere north anytime quickly. And obviously, don't chase, guys. There is so many opportunities. Let the market come to you. There's over 1,000 blue chip stocks in the market right now, and over 8,000 tickers on the New York Stock Exchange specifically, right? So rather than chasing a stock like NVIDIA all the way up, even though it seems like a good deal, you may want to start looking at some competitors which could potentially be a little bit lower than their industry peers, right? So that's just a little bit of a tidbit on that. Right? If you missed a name, check the industry peers. And we're going to target stocks that are at big support levels, daily, weekly, monthly for these swing trades. Need to have expanding revenue and EPS, good free cash flow, and relatively low debt. Very simple, guys. Fundamental analysis, even though, I can dive into a company for over an hour, it really doesn't have to be that complicated. You can do some very rudimentary fundamental analysis with all the tools that I'm just going to show you in TradingView, just so you have a general overview of where the company is going. Is it growing? Is it not? Is it profitable? Is it not? Should be an easy way for you to make a decision off of that, right? The name of the game is solid fundamentals and a great technical entry. So with all that being said, guys, let's jump into our subscriber request. And we're going to start it off here with GB asking if we can do MPC. So Marathon Petroleum Corporation, guys. If you guys didn't know, this one pretty much spun off from its larger parent company, MRO. MPC does more of the downstream refining and end transportation for oil here, guys. So this company is not exposed to oil exploration projects. That would be the parent company, MRO. If you're only interested in the transportation and final refinement of that oil, this is pretty much the company for you. Now, in terms of the fundamentals here, guys, the fundamentals of MPC are quite good, right? But just keep in mind, since it is an oil company, it will fluctuate highly with oil prices. And we can see that through their declining EPS over the next foreseeable future and their declining revenue as well. Now, that's not because the company is doing anything bad. It's just because largely investors do think that the price of oil had hit pretty much peak around 2022 and now probably is going to be more of a range-bound commodity for the foreseeable future as inflation continues coming down overall. So all in all, guys, MPC, not a very bad company overall. It's just we need to understand what are the industry trends. That being said, this is one of the most solid names in terms of technicals. Them and really a company like Valero, right, are really super strong charts currently. But to look at MPC directly, if you want to play this on the technical basis, well, rather, if I want to play this on the technical basis, just need to be reminded who's in control, right? Gorgeous monthly uptrend right now, coming back down into monthly support, and we're coming back down into the 12 EMA. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky situation because we are coming on to the top end of the support zone, but personally, guys, if I'm going to be trying to play this one, I may want to be able to get as close as possible to the 200 daily moving average on the daily chart right here at around 166, or maybe even on the weekly, guys, that kind of coincides with our weekly 50 EMA as well. And you can see how well MPC has maintained this 50 EMA on the weekly pretty much over the last couple of years at this point, right? So even though it does look like we're kind of trying to find a rounding bottom here, could be a little bit of a two-step process. Now, this is why I love selling short puts, because we can sell short puts down here, and if it doesn't get there, we collect premium. Now, there's not that much premium on MPC because being such a legacy company, such a consistent company, the implied volatility is not that high. So if I were to play this one trying for the daily trend reversal right now, we can make an attempt right here. However, the stop loss needs to be super tight, needs to really be below these lows at around 170. So slightly below 170 would be my stop loss for an initial entry for that daily turnover, for the eventual recapture of the weekly uptrend as well. However, if we get stopped out down here, then our next entry needs to be in the mid 165s. Mid 165s would be a better location here in terms of just lining up with our longer term moving averages. So fairly decent company, guys. Nothing bad to say, just heavily tied into the price of oil, right? So as long as oil, it maintains this consistent weekly downtrend, it's going to be a little bit tough for MPC to really start grinding these levels higher, right? But all in all, we are at the area where we want to be targeting these bounces at the 618 level. So this is why could be a very decent trade attempt for someone like me trying to manage this 618 entry for the potential continuation of this gorgeous monthly uptrend. So initial entry possible right here, but a little bit lower, guys, that would be the preferred entry. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, company number 2, we're going to go through TQQQ for Mark. No problem at all, Mark. Let's take a look at TQQQ. And TQQQ, guys, if you don't know, obviously it's the 3 times leverage version of the QQQ. But one thing, you really want to be buying these in cyclical downturns to enter a position in the TQQQ. I would not chase it in a bull market. You need to be buying this when we have an overall macro cycle drawdown like the one we had in 2022, at least to go very heavy with size. Now, if you want to build a little bit of a swing trade position, or rather, sorry, if I want to build a little bit of a swing trade position, I am going to go with these simple rules. Very, very easy way to play TQQQ, guys. Look for I'm going to be looking for potential taps of the weekly 26 EMA while we are in a consistent bull cycle, right? So these tests of the 26 EMA usually very good for the QQQ. And when we see those in the QQQ, that's when I do position in TQQQ specifically for that rally, right? So I'm always basing my entries and exits on TQQQ using the major pair here, QQQ specifically. And if we take a look as well, guys, on the daily, if you want some further swing trades, if you're interested in trading this one a bit more on a frequent basis, or rather, I need to change up my language. If I'm interested in trading this on a daily trend cycle basis, as long as we are in consistent daily uptrends, well, every single time that this tags the 26 EMA is a decent chance for a little bit of a long opportunity. This is when we are in a consistent daily uptrend. We're in a bit of a sideways range-bound consolidation. That is when I usually don't take these trades until the consolidation plays out. You can see we broke down over here, but as soon as we did recapture the moving averages, recapture the uptrend, the first retest of the 26 usually gives a decent little entry, especially when you couple it with a big previous area of support. Juicy little swing trade opportunity per se. But TQQQ is obviously going to, for the long-term trend, right? It's just going to follow the underlying QQQ technology sector. And as long as QQQ remains in a very gorgeous monthly bullish uptrend, I really don't see any reason, if you have accumulated positions down here, or if I've accumulated positions down here rather, to be making a good hold out of this for the long term, right? Just following the bull cycle. If I have a great entry down here, I don't see any red flags to cut the position just yet. Now, moving on to Farhan. Farhan asking us for SMCI. No problem at all, Farhan. Let's go over SMCI. So SMCI, a little bit of fundamentals, guys, right? Obviously, we know that they are one of the big storage manufacturers for companies like NVIDIA, who are using very, very large server farms. So they just manufacture equipment, right? Think server racks and stuff like that. In terms of the valuation is fair. We did them after earnings, only about a 0.93 at 770. We are at 770 again, and we are coming into a very long-term area of support, right? This company has very, very fantastic fundamentals. If we take a look in terms of our long-term debt here, no long-term debt whatsoever. Although they did have a little bit of a negative free cash flow, it was only due to a one-line item event last quarter. They should be resuming positive free cash flow in the future, so it's not a big problem there. In terms of the EPS growth, very substantial EPS growth, very substantial revenue growth, so could be a very interesting company for me to look for a swing trade in this lower area right here, just in a very tight weekly trend consolidation phase right now, looking for the monthly higher low for the potential trend continuation. Really just a carry trade from the whole semiconductor business, I do still remain fairly bullish on this company. Could be a very nice swing trade opportunity if we are to take the swing trade from here. Let's say I wanted to take a position from here, even though we are in a daily downtrend, we are going to be looking eventually for the daily uptrend recapture, right? So initial entries could be something like this. If we're trying to pick the bottoms right now, could be looking for that initial 4-hour trend change. When we get the 4-hour trend change, could be leading into a daily move higher. So we could be able to snipe it a little bit right here, maybe 780, 775, and then the lows. Then your stop loss obviously has to go below these lows right here because that invalidates the whole long trade for the weekly trend reversal, right? So the stop loss would go below the lows here, and we would be targeting the highs at this point, 973 for this swing trade opportunity, right? So about $100 worth of risk down here, about $200 worth of reward out there. Very decent risk to reward trade in my humble opinion. So I will be looking out for that one specifically. Now moving on to Palo Alto. So a request for Palo Alto right here by Krupa Elizabeth. So thank you very much. We are going to do Palo Alto Networks, no problem at all. So if you didn't see my video on Palo Alto Network earnings about 2 weeks ago, just go in my channel videos, search up the ticker PANW, and you should see the video. I spent about 10 minutes doing a full fundamental analysis breakdown on it. But just quickly, guys, this company got hit about a quarter ago trying to reorganize their service offering, their product offering. They used to have, 20, 25 different products. They've now bundled everything together into 3 major suites of products, and that is supposed to be easier to onboard larger customers, right? So moving into the analysis, what are we looking at here? Well, we are obviously in a very nice monthly uptrend right now, looking pretty good for the monthly trend continuation, tagging the 12 EMA on the monthly. This area right here is huge support for the stock, 275 down to about 255, and we are looking for the weekly trend change right now, rejecting nicely using the moving averages as support and right above our prior area of resistance down here, using it as support as well. So the swing trade opportunity for me, if we are looking for this to be our weekly bottoms and set the daily uptrend, if we do have a little bit, since we are now in a daily downtrend, right, and the bulls are trying to recapture the daily uptrend to shift into the weekly uptrend, well, what we'd be looking for, if you have a little bit of a downswing right here, I may be looking to make an entry right here. My stop loss goes below the lows because that is your weekly lows. We are trying to pick the weekly higher lows or for continuation, or we are wrong and then we need to reposition down in this lower area. So the swing trade for me would be something like this. Stop loss goes below the lows right here, 287. So you're looking maybe at about $10, $12 worth of risk, and the initial reward, take profit number 1, has to be your weekly highs, 324, and then take profit number 2, if you want to hold the bag, obviously needs to be towards the all-time high. So that's just a little bit of a swing trade opportunity that I would be looking for personally if I were to play SMCI. Really great company, guys. Obviously, right? Industry leader in terms of what they do. And the valuation in terms of, in terms of Palo Alto, the valuation is not that bad at a 2.4 PEG ratio. We went much, much, much further into detail in the earnings recap. So if you haven't seen it, just go back in my videos list, search for PANW, and you should be able to find exactly what you're looking for. So hopefully that helps on Palo Alto. I do like this stock. We can't deny, guys, that it is the industry leader. Now, moving on to Prakash. So Prakash, thank you very much for your recommendation for DELL. Let's take a look at DELL right now. So DELL obviously had a huge rally up pretty much with their partnership from NVIDIA that pretty much manifested last May, right? If you don't know exactly what I'm talking about here, we need to go on to the, where do I have it? Do I have it still pull up somewhere? Anyways, you can pull up an article. Oh, it's right here. So we have the DELL Technologies and NVIDIA introduced the Project Helix for secure on-premises generative AI. So they're looking to integrate with the use of NVIDIA chips, AI into a lot of their customer platforms, but not only that, a lot of their server and enterprise platforms. The server division is really what's been growing it for DELL in the past couple of quarters, right? So take a look at this. The Infrastructure Solutions Group, so enterprise networking, right? Up 22% year over year in terms of gross sales. That is servers, storage, and networking gear for data center applications. However, for clients, these sales were flat year over year. So this is their highest growth metric right now. Now, in terms of the valuation, before we do the technicals here, guys, well, it's not that bad, right? Forward P at about 18.81, forward PEG of about a 1.44. Not too bad, but it really is riding NVIDIA's coattails. And I said right here, watch the evolution of free cash flow for debt paydown and share repurchases. And the reason that I wrote that down, guys, is my only problem with DELL right now is right down here. They have a tremendous amount of debt, right? So $26 billion in debt, and they bring in pretty much in terms of a on a yearly basis in terms of net income, only $3.21 billion. So still a lot of debt in relation to the amount of free cash flow that they generate or the cash and cash on hands that they have. So that is my only problem with the company right now. And also the fact that a lot of their EPS growth is coming from their enterprise solutions group as well, right? So if we were to try to take a little bit of a position, or if I was going to try to take a little bit of a position on this one, looking maybe for the continuation, well, we got to be careful here, guys, right? Monthly, very overbought conditions, and it's a company like Dell. We're not talking about NVIDIA, and they're not growing EPS nearly close to what a lot of other semiconductor companies are possibly growing. So need to be careful with such a it's a decent growth rate, but it's low compared to some ones that are growing 20, 25, 30% EPS per year, especially with monthly overbought conditions. Not my favorite trade. But if I had to take a little bit of a technical entry on this trade right now, well, very simply, weekly uptrend, and we're looking for potentially the weekly retest right here and the continuation. My problem right now that I'm having with Dell is the fact when we pull up the fibs on this, guys, it's a 786 retracement, which in other words means it's going to be very, very tough for the bulls to V-shape this, guys. When the bears take back so much of a move, the best you can probably get sometimes is a consolidation range. Take a look at this move right here. It's completely different. Before pretty much bottoming out, right? We hit the 50% retracement mark. The bulls have a much better chance of being able to V-shape a 50% retracement than an 80% retracement, even though we're coming down into the level of support. So my trade logic is as follows. The invalidation area for me is if we really break down below this weekly 12 EMA right now and break below this final area of the box around 125, that would really invalidate the possibility of having a juicy long trade. We may just be trapped in a bit of a tightening range at that point. So in terms of our dailies, guys, well, obviously after earnings, they did get crushed as their growth perspectives were really put back into question. So if I had to make a swing trade right here, even though I don't like the technical setup on Dell, and I do think that there's better swing trades out there, if I had to make one potentially for the daily trend change, well, since we're now in a daily uptrend, a daily downtrend, going to be looking for that hourly trend reversal. When I see the hourly trend reversal, the goal is to enter after the hourly trend reversal. We put our stops below the lows and we try to make an attempt potentially targeting the moving averages or a little bit of the gap fill up here at the 150 area. That is probably the best that we can do for Dell stock right now. I do believe that these guys got a little bit rich in terms of their price action movement as of recently. Now, moving on to Kelvin. Thank you very much, Kelvin. So we do TA on CRM after the massive disaster that happened? Absolutely. So let's take a look at CRM right here. CRM not looking too bad at all. We still are maintaining the monthly uptrend. However, encountering a little bit of the problem, guys, that we just had on our previous chart at Dell. Take a look at the amount of the move that the bears took back on CRM. Almost an 80% retracement. When we get an 80% retracement, guys, we can't be banking on the ultimate V-shape back to all-time highs. Take a look at this move right here. A little bit of a similar move on the monthly. And the reason that it was able to continue higher, you can see the retracement was barely 50%, which gives the bulls still a decent amount of launch pad. When the bears take back too much, guys, the bulls just don't have the juice. They don't have the momentum to do this unless the company has absolutely groundbreaking, crushing news. And after the most recent earnings, guys, I don't think that's happening for CRM. Yes, they are improving their free cash flow. Yes, they are improving their margins, but that is coming at the expense of potential growth, right? So they've substituted growth for better fundamentals. That's why the company is doing a bit poorly as their most recent earnings, right? So in terms of the technicals, solely purely technicals, right? Bounced off an extremely juicy area on the monthly, and even on the weekly, you can see that as well. I don't believe it's going to be very easy for the bears to even make it back through this whole 220, 210 area, let's call it, right? So that, in my opinion, is pretty much our local bottoms for right now. If I was looking to make a little bit of a swing trade on this, considering the fact that we're in a weekly downtrend, we are attempting the weekly trend, the weekly bounce right now, and the daily bounce is fairly juicy. So what I would be looking for here, guys, is whenever we lose this daily uptrend and we consolidate into the daily downtrend, we're going to be looking for the potential weekly high or low for the weekly trend change. Now, this potential retest on a weekly basis for a weekly high or low, maybe coupling up with the 220, let's call it 230 down to 220 area, could be my juicy area for the swing trade. Your stops go below this low, obviously, because then we would lose the 200 weekly EMA. So we'll be probably looking at maybe, let's call it $20 worth of risk. And the upside, guys, well, since we're looking for the weekly upside reversal, we'll be targeting TP1 is going to be around 270. So really about, let's call it about $20 worth of risk for about $40 worth of upside, looking pretty decent for a little bit of a swing trade. If I had to make an attempt attempt, that is the style of an attempt that I would personally be making on that one. Now, moving on to AFRM. Thank you very much, Kung Fu. So we're going to do AFRM. Let's take a look at AFRM. So AFRM, purely on a fundamental basis, guys, I'm pretty sure everybody knows they're a buy now, pay later service. Now, this is a type of service that when interest rates are high, their margins of profits get crushed pretty brutally, right? So even though they are expanding revenue, they're not yet net income profitable. And when we pull up the projections as well, you can see that on an EPS basis, they will not be profitable even until 2027. So still no clear path to profitability, even though the revenue is expanding. Now, the revenue is expanding, but the profitability isn't, which usually leads to piling up of debt. So unfortunately for AFRM now, not that much cash equivalents left on the balance sheet, and they do have a lot of debt. This is the one thing that's holding this company back, in my opinion. And also their business model, even though it is buy now, pay later, guys, you know, a lot of people are going to just avoid making large purchases or even medium purchases per se for now. So even though their revenue is growing, it's not growing at as fast as a rate as it potentially would have been growing in 2020 and 2021 when money was free and interest rates were low and people had no problem doing the buy now, pay later service. Now, in terms of our technicals, guys, monthly uptrend, looking for the monthly higher low, 6 months of consolidation coming down right here into our monthly 12 EMA. Now, couple that with the fact that we are in a weekly downtrend. So essentially what we're looking for here, guys, is the point of the monthly trend reversal. And we're coming up into a juicy area right now, 27 down to about 16. I know it's a wide range, but in all reality, guys, we really want to target the top end of the range right here, right? 25 area for the potential bottom of this monthly move and maybe start moving on the monthly higher when interest rates really start curling over in the next few months. So what I'd be looking personally on this trade, looking for the weekly trend reversal as well. How do we know we're going to reverse the weekly? Well, we're going to be trying to make an attempt at the daily trend changes. Take a look, daily trend change here. If you're trying to get the weekly bounce from here for the reversal, guys, well, we need to be targeting first the daily trend change. When we see a daily trend change attempt by the bulls, we get the entry, the stop loss goes below the most recent low, and then we're targeting the top end of a prior weekly move. So if you're targeting this one, we'd be targeting the top end of this, and we do see that our orders would probably have gotten filled. This trade setup is largely the same, so we're just looking for the potential daily trend change, which is underway by the bulls right now, trying to retest for the daily higher low and go for the daily trend change. So the trade attempt right here for me would be pretty much long on AFRM from here. Stop loss goes below the low because we're trying to get the weekly bottom, or we are wrong and then we reset potentially lower around the 26-25 for a secondary attempt. Once again, in the context of trying to go for that monthly uptrend continuation, right? So the attempt would pretty much go right here for a first bid. Stop loss goes below the lows. And where are we targeting, guys? We are targeting our most recent weekly lower high, which is pretty much sitting at about 35 right now. So the risk is fairly limited, only maybe $1.50 worth of risk to the downside. At the upside, at least initial take profit is $5. So that is how I would be looking at AFRM personally. Now let's move on to a different one. Minion asking us, can we do on semi? No problem at all. Yes, ON Semiconductors, one of the stocks that I really love trading in this area specifically, especially writing short puts, guys, around the 70 area. In my opinion, I do think it's a very solid location because it is such huge support, right? Monthly is looking extremely good as well. And the fundamentals of this company, guys, have been netly improving. Take a look at this net margin expansion here by the company, looking very good. Not that much debt in relation to their cash that they have on hand and the amount of free cash flow that they're generating on a quarterly basis. Very good right there. And even in terms of EPS expansion, right? 2024, a little bit of a soft year for them. I'll explain why, but thereafter EPS expansion and even revenue. 2024, a little bit of a soft year for them, but thereafter revenue expansion. Now, the reason that this is the case, guys, is because even though onsemi has an extremely diverse portfolio of different sectors that they cater to, one of their main ones is automotive. They do a lot of image sensors, cameras, all the different moving parts for automobiles, electronic sensors and all that. And a lot of solar products as well. Keep an eye here. This is their most recent earnings report, right? So full year record automotive revenue, $4.3 billion, right? $4.3 billion for the entire year of 2024. And now take a look, how much money did they make total in 2024 here, guys? Well, they pretty much made, well, fiscal year and calendar year on TradingView is different, but they're referencing this, right? $8.25 billion. So the automotive business is literally half of their entire business. The reason that they haven't been running as of lately is because, very simply, guys, the automotive industry slowed down. And they've hinted at that in their last last 2 quarterly earnings, but since that's a cyclical business, I do believe it will resume. And keep in mind, that's not all of their business, right? But it is a large component of their business. But this company has partnerships with so many broad market participants, not necessarily automobiles, right? But automobiles, we can't ignore it. It is 40% of their revenue. Now, that being said, on the technical basis, guys, or rather, a last fundamental point, right? They're pretty much rolling. If we were to take in consideration the fact that 2024 is a little bit of a slow year for them, we can derive 2 ratios. One in which they're only growing 8% a year if we encompass the slow 2024, and 18% thereafter, 25, 26, 27, right? So if you were to take pretty much their PEG ratio at $72 using the slow year as well, 2025, it gives them a PEG of 2.25. At a first glance, seems a little bit high, but if we take their PEG ratio for the growth thereafter, when the automotive industry is said to pretty much get out of the bottom of cyclicality and resume, to the upside, well, then we can maybe give them their 18% growth thereafter, and that really gives them a 1 PEG. So the company, in my opinion, fairly valued in that metric. Huge area of monthly consolidation right now. I really like bidding this stock in this area. Granted, it is a weekly downtrend right now, right? The bears are in full control. The bulls are just looking for the weekly uptrend recapture, and we're trying to set the weekly higher lows right now. Look at this daily reacting very nicely from the prior range right here, 71, 72. So if I did have a little bit of a swing trade attempt to make on this stock with shares, very simply here, guys, we're going to try for the daily trend reversal. The stops go, pretty much the entry is right now, very tight stop loss down below here, and then we would really be targeting this weekly trend expansion into the higher levels around 81. Now, if that's not the case, guys, if they do break down right here, just remember we are coming into a huge area of support, and I would be looking to maybe bid the stock, even if it comes down to around 68 level. 68 level is usually when I have the best success myself with while playing this stock, right? At that point, if it does come down here, you're going to be looking for the daily trend reversal. And as soon as you see the daily trend reversal attempt, we're going to make a second attempt at firing off for the weekly higher low. Stops would go below here for a larger position. And then once again, we're targeting weekly trend expansion, TP1, and then TP2 on semi. So hopefully that makes sense for ON Semiconductors. Now let's get into another one here. Naveed asking, can we do Broadcom before earnings? Absolutely. One of the biggest names in the game here, guys. One of your industry leaders in terms of semiconductors, right? Extremely solid company fundamentally, guys. You'd be hard pressed to find anything wrong with this company. Extremely high free cash flow, extremely high net margins. Look at these net margins, absolutely ridiculous, right? 39%. Good buybacks, share compensation for management, not too bad. Medium debt, that was because they acquired VMware for $69 billion, but they make so much free cash flow, guys. They should be able to pay down this amount of debt. And if I'm not mistaken, they already potentially are going to be starting this year. That's why you see this large uptick in debt, just because they acquired one of their competitors, right? Now, in terms of revenue growth, EPS growth, extremely solid company here, guys. Take a look at these expansion curves, right? So consistent EPS, so consistent on revenue as well. And obviously, you guys know, since we're in the semiconductor boom right now, that should continue at least through 2025 with that substantial growth. Gives them a PEG ratio at about $1,400 of about 2.13. That's fairly standard. So many semiconductor companies are trading in or around a 2. And for an industry leader, guys, this one and probably ASML are two of my favorite companies, guys. ASML largely because it has an absolute monopoly on the type of machinery that they manufacture. But ASML, AVGO, Broadcom here, you really can't go wrong. In terms of the technicals as well, gorgeous monthly uptrend. A little bit overbought on the monthly, kind of reminding me of NVIDIA. Not really overbought on the weekly. And we're just in a very nice area of weekly consolidation. This kind of looks like the SMH ETF once they were at the tops. This, guys, is just screaming, absolutely screaming bull flag to me right now. And we're now attempting the weekly trend breakout. So if I had to make a swing trade on this one, even though they do have earnings, guys, I know they have earnings this Wednesday, but let's say for all intents and purposes, they didn't, right? For a technical basis, I would be making a potential long attempt right here, as we are expecting the potential weekly uptrend shift. We've already trying to engulf the most recent daily move. So if you do get a little bit of a retest here into the moving averages, 1382 could be a decent little swing trade opportunity for me. Stops would go pretty much below there because that would pretty much invalidate the fact that the weekly higher lows are set. Obviously, using the 12 EMAs as support right there, so should be fine. And then we're obviously targeting all-time highs for an initial take profit, closer maybe to 1500 psychological for the next movement of leg up. Looking extremely strong on all time frames. Monthly, weekly is looking looking gorgeous. And even the daily engulfing move into a trend change attempt could be nice, but just keep in mind, guys, earnings, right? Earnings is going to be the gamble right here. A lot of high expectations baked in this stock. If earnings go down, I wouldn't mind picking it up here, guys, down here, maybe for another swing trade. If ever we don't take the trade before earnings, we try to take it after earnings, and they drop a little bit. Could be a very juicy area, guys. It would just be retesting prior range of consolidation, and it would just still be tight consolidation. Even though we'd kind of give back a lot of this move, I do believe it could be a nice little swing trade opportunity bottom. Even if we continue to tighten up, I think this one will break the all-time highs this year. Now, moving on to further down here, Manuel asking us, can we do PSTG, right? So take a look here. Manuel Sanchez asking us for PSTG. No problem at all. Pure Storage. So Pure Storage is one that I've been watching a lot, right? A lot. Once again, they're kind of, I mean, they don't really do the same business as SMCI, because SMCI doesn't actually provide any cloud storage or actually data storage. They just provide hardware storage. This is a company that does both. Not only do they do cloud storage applications, but they also do different server racks, cooling applications. They're really kind of like a one solution company that does everything. And obviously they've had a tremendous rally after the data center boom started by NVIDIA, which is why the chart pretty much looks like this. In terms of your fundamental valuations here, guys, revenue growth and EPS growth are very good here. The company, right, even though the company is barely net margin profitable, that should be improving. And even though they're barely net margin profitable, they don't have a lot of debt, only about $270 million worth of debt, building that cash pile, building the free cash flow. So the balance sheet, even though they don't have a lot of net income so far, it is growing. Even though their last quarter was a little bit negative, we are on an overall trend to positivity in terms of net margins. In terms of EPS, we also have very nice EPS expansion and very nice revenue expansion over the foreseeable future. Now, in terms of the technicals, guys, technicals obviously very nice monthly uptrend right now. A little bit overbought on the monthly as well. In terms of our PEG ratio, 2.4, a little bit high as well. So everything is kind of a bit high right now, but I mean, it is part of the whole semiconductor trade, so that is to be expected right now. If we were to follow this one solely on a little bit of a trend continuation trade, right? Well, very tough for me to start a position up here, even though, guys, it is a glorious uptrend on the monthly, glorious uptrend on the weekly as well. And even on the daily, guys, even after this earnings dip, guys, we are looking to potentially recapture this into the furtherance of a continued daily uptrend. So daily uptrend, pretty much just looking for the tags of the 12 EMA, right? Tag the 12 EMA could be a nice trade entry. Obviously the lows, the stops goes below the lows right here. And we target the prior highs of any one of these moves. I really don't see any reason, if I'm holding this position from potentially prior levels, I don't see any reason to sell. But to start a position up here, considering the fact that on the monthly, slightly overbought, on the weekly, slightly overbought, and even in terms of valuation, right? The valuation isn't cheap, right? It's not bad. It's not egregiously terrible. It's just not cheap. So tough for me to start a position up here. Even in terms of a technical trade here, guys, very tough, right? The actual technical trade I would have been interested in playing is a retest of a weekly support range. That would have been down maybe 58, 55 level, but they never really gave it to us even after earnings, right? So this is one that I wouldn't chase specifically. I maybe would just wait for the trade to come to us in the event it has a larger sell-off event. So hopefully that is sufficient for you, Manuel. Thank you very much for that ticker. Very solid company to say the least, though. Then we're going to take a look at VRT for Tassadar 1233. So looking at VRT for a little bit of technical analysis, no problem at all. Let's get right into it. So VRT, such a monster, right? Very beautiful stock expansion, guys. Obviously, this is a company that, once again, is tied into the semiconductor trade. However, they do cooling solutions, a lot of cooling solutions, which is very much needed, guys, when you're running so much computing power recently, whether you're big tech or NVIDIA, right? So a lot of Vertiv services are highly in demand right now, which is why, in terms of fundamentals, guys, the company is doing absolutely amazing. If you take a look down here, if we take a look at their profitability, they used to be very thin margins. Now with the data center application expansion, guys, we do have an expansion of margins, even though last quarter was a little bit of an outlier, right? They are currently expanding in terms of the fundamentals, guys. Even though they have a little bit of debt, not too bad. They are building up the free cash flow, building up the cash flow pile, and they do have very nice EPS expansion and also very nice revenue expansion too. So all in all, 1.32 PEG, not that bad considering this much EPS growth, right? The one thing is going to be, can the company keep up the growth for at least for the foreseeable future? What the semiconductor industry is telling us is at least through 2025, they should be able to do it. Now, the 12 EMA, guys, is going to be the line to be respected on this chart. Gorgeous weekly uptrend, as a matter of fact, right now, and it is, if we are to take this 12 EMA as a location for a potential trade entry, it is bouncing off it right now, and bouncing off prior weekly support range, prior resistance now becomes newfound support. So we're coming in to a very nice area of confluence. Couple that with the fact that our short-term time frame, such as the 4 hour, is a little bit oversold right now, and even the 1 hour coming out of oversold conditions. So if I'm looking to make a trade opportunity right here, guys, the trade opportunity is literally right here. So what are we trying to do right now? Trying to time the weekly higher lows for the weekly trend continuation. And what we're looking at here is a daily downtrend. So obviously we need to get the daily downtrend shift. How do we know that the daily leg higher is started? Need to see an hourly trend change. The bulls are trying to do it now. Still a bit of a tightening range, but if we get this hourly trend change into next week, we can be trying to make a little bit of a swing trade attempt right here. The pretty much, depending where the hourly move starts, right? Let's say it starts right here and we get the trend expansion from here. The entry goes there. The lows go below the lows right there. Very, very tight stop loss since we're trying to time the daily trend change back into weekly momentum higher, right? So tight stop loss, because if we're wrong, could just be ending up to get an even better entry in these lower locations right here. I would be very, very tempted to make a swing trade attempt right here, especially since we'd be so much below this 12 EMA that we've respected this entire time. But the trend, the trade attempt is right here pretty much at the current time. Just looking for that confirmation on the hourly. And then obviously your take profit 1, if we do get the daily trend change, you get the entry down here. Well, my stop loss goes below the lows. TP1 goes here, and then TP2 potentially goes all the way back to the all-time highs for the weekly trend continuation. So looking quite good, guys, after about, 7, 8, 9, 10 days of sell-off, one of the larger sell-offs in most recent trading price action, right, for Vertiv Holdings. Could be a very juicy trade opportunity right there if I was looking to do that. Now, before last, we have Dominic here asking for ARCB. No problem at all, Dominic. Let's take a look. So this is a trucking company, for those who don't know. Now, this company is a very, very strong one, guys. They have pretty much the strongest fundamentals out of all of them, except for them and, I forget, I looked them up earlier, guys. They are... yes, TFI International, right? So I keep forgetting the ticker. I keep thinking it's TFN, right? But it's TFII. So, okay, so TFI International, these are two of the strongest pure freight plays in the game right now. Now, in terms of the one that Dominic requested right here, so ARCB, extremely strong company to say the least. In terms of their fundamentals, guys, really nothing bad to say. I mean, yes, they're a freight transportation company, so you can't really expect them to have record net margins, right? Usually these companies operate on top line revenue growth, not so much end of the line margin. They want to get more and more market share. That is their goal. So as we can see right here, thin margins, but they do have fairly decent EPS expansion over the next couple of years and fairly decent revenue expansion over the next couple of years as well. Why was there an outlier right here, guys? Well, you guys know what happened to transportation services and the fees associated with them when the supply chains were broken 2021, 2022 a little bit, and even a little bit of 2023, right? It really contributed to bringing the overall price of freight trucking a lot higher. This is directly from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. You can see this is the PPI, Producer Price Index, by general freight trucking and long distance truckload. And you can see it absolutely exploded after pretty much consistent gains, right? Obviously with normal inflation, prices go up normally, but with extreme high inflation and broken supply chains, that's what really gave them a ton more revenue and a ton more free cash flow because they had pricing power. But now that pricing power is quickly returning or reverting to the mean, right? I'm not expecting a full retracement of this, but retracements will continue. And although the company has been performing very well here, guys, right? A little bit of it has to do with the amount of share buybacks they were able to do, right? Buying back about 10% of the company over pretty much the past year and a half at this point, just because they've generated so much more substantial revenue and especially free cash flow, right? That can't be ignored. A lot of new free cash flow here from those years, those pandemic years. So they've been using those to buy back shares, which obviously contributes to the share price moving higher. Now, in terms of the technical basis of this trade here, guys, I really like the technical formation of this one, right? My only problem is that even though we are in a little bit of a monthly uptrend and retesting very beautiful monthly support, retest of the 26 EMA2, which it's held this entire time, guys, 26 EMA on the monthly cannot be ignored. So there is a little bit of a swing trade opportunity right here, but my only problem here, guys, is with the size of the retracement, right? The size of this retracement is quite nasty right now. So keep an eye on this. It is a pretty much 78% retracement. And it's not to say that the company can't continuously move higher, but it's probably not, right, going to make a complete V shape. That's just what the fibs say. When the bears take back too much of the move, it takes some time for the bulls to build up the juice, build up the momentum to change this back into a monthly uptrend. We can see the exact same thing happen back here, right? Tremendous rally to the upside. And then what did the bears do? Took back 78% of the move. And yes, the move did continue higher thereafter, but it takes time, guys, sometimes to reverse this back into a monthly new uptrend after the bears take back so much of the move. When the bears don't take back too much of the move, like this move right here, right, off the bottoms, when they only take back 50% of a move, well, at least, 50, 55% of a move, almost 60, it gives them a lot better chance at really continuing this in a one streamlined fashion. But I do like this trade opportunity. I'm just saying maybe the trade opportunity could be potentially swing trading up to these highs. If I'm looking to build a long-term position, guys, obviously this could be a very juicy entry if you're really looking to ride this wave higher. One of the most solid trucking companies in the game right now. And even on the weekly here, guys, right? Not yet oversold on the weekly. However, on the daily, guys, coming out of daily oversold conditions, engulfing move. So what we're looking for right now, if you want to see this weekly trend reversal start shaping up, trying to get this leg higher right now, well, we're looking for the daily trend reversals. And this is the attempt at it, engulfing move, right? So we're looking for this daily trend reversal. Initial bias could be here, or potentially if I'm waiting for that daily higher low right here, maybe 105, stop loss, very, very tight stop loss, goes below the lows. And then we're trying for the weekly trend attempt. So you can let them run a little bit more. TP1 would be the highs of the most recent weekly higher lows around the 120, 160 range. And then obviously potentially setting up for the weekly trend attempt change higher. So that's just a little quick tidbit on ARCB for a potential swing trade and a little bit of commentary on the fundamentals. My favorite freight company as a whole, guys, just because there's a lot of different freight trucking companies, my favorite freight trade as a whole, guys, has to be Canadian Pacific, especially after their merger with Kansas City. Now, I know we're talking about trucking and this is railways, but at the end of the day, it is still freight transportation, right? And the reason why I like CP is because other than UNP, the other major railroad in the United States, these guys really have almost, dare I say, a monopoly, right? Extremely good company management, very, very tight range of accumulation at the tops right here. And with their expanding EPS and revenue growth, I would expect this one to continuously moving higher. That's just my preferred trade in the whole freight sector, just for the longevity, right? In terms of that, because we don't know in terms of whether or not how far down these prices for transportation in the trucking industry will continue going lower, which is what we need to focus on for trucking companies. Are they going to be able to consistently raise free cash flow, raise EPS, or are they eventually going to get crushed by this pricing reverting back to the mean and running out of pricing power? That is not a problem that Canadian Pacific has, just due to their lack, quite frankly, of competition, right? Them and UNP pretty much set the prices, so they're less beholden to the trucking industry, which has about 15, 20 different competitors, which, they can compete amongst prices. It's pretty much a race to the bottom, right? Which is why you never see high margins in trucking companies, and even a company like UPS has been hinting at this the entire year so far. So a bit of an extended analysis on that one, Dominic. Hopefully you appreciated that. And now lastly, Alejandro asking us for Nike. Yes, of course, we can definitely do Nike. So Nike has been one that I've tried to make several trade attempts in the past 6 months at, and really, this one, not to say that it's burned me every single time, guys, but I really haven't made that much money on the stock in pretty much, the last year of holding at this point. Now, in terms of Nike, everybody knows the problem with Nike right now, right? China sales are up, inventory which is down, which is good. So sorry, I thought that would be a negative headline. This is just the earnings recap from their last earnings. So the problem that Nike is facing right now, guys, is the fact that consumer discretionary spending is a little bit down. Now, even though China sales are up, that I wrote it right here, well, China sales are up, but they're still overall down in relation to what they were clearly in 2020 and 2021, when people had a lot more disposable income. In terms of their financials here, guys, Nike, such a solid legacy company. It's not as if they have a debt problem whatsoever, so their balance sheet is solid. My biggest concern, guys, lies here, right? So the past couple of years have been really flat in terms of EPS, and 23, 24, 25, even though they are expanding, guys, they're not back to the traditional growth that Nike has. Even revenue, look, revenue is really going to be arguably flat, right, for the next 2 years. And Nike said this on their last earnings call. The CEO was very diligent on this. He recognized that they had an innovation and growth problem, right? Nike, obviously one of the largest companies in the world, but they need to continuously reinvent themselves to maintain that top tier legacy brand status. And the CEO recognized it was a problem. So this year specifically, they said they would be focusing on innovations, not only in their shoes, but also in their athletic wear. Now, a big current catalyst for this company is obviously going to be the Olympics. Very big sponsor of the Olympics this summer. Right? So could be a nice little turnaround story, initially turnaround story for the company. That being said, long-term portfolio, yes. I don't believe that this stock is going anywhere, which is why I do still hold it in my long-term portfolio. This lower region right here, pretty much $90, represents some of the best value you can currently find for Nike, but don't think that it's cheap for any in any regard, right? In terms of the PE ratio at 95, even though they are growing EPS, fairly standardly, right? Their EPS right now, their PEG ratio, is a little bit high, right? It's not cheap. Under 1 or close to 1 would be cheap. Closer to 2, even though the share price is down substantially, guys, it is not that cheap, right? And that is just a factor of the fact that they've been in a pretty much flat EPS range for the past 4 years right now. And even 2024, guys, the EPS expansion is not that great. Supposedly, it will start in 2025, 2026. So Nike, a little bit of a transition year for them. But during these periods of transition, guys, when a stock is down so much and it's a legacy brand and we're pretty sure that it's not going anywhere, right? Nike sponsors so many sporting events such as the Olympics. They have partnerships across all of major league sports, whether it's soccer or basketball or baseball, anything, right? They're really not going anywhere anytime soon. So building a longer term position in this location right here, absolutely. In terms of a shorter term swing trade, guys, they're part of consumer discretionary and the sector is still out of favor with Wall Street. So in my opinion, if we're going for a swing trade on this one, or if I'm going for a swing trade on this one, right, it's going to be a very long and drawn out trade. I'm not expecting recovery on Nike like this, but could be a little bit of a swing trade entry right here. If I'm trying to play it, we do have a nice little new daily uptrend. And what we're trying to do is really trying to reverse this weekly uptrend as well. Just now putting in the weekly higher high. So weekly trend change is underway and we're trying to desperately reverse this monthly trend as well. So in terms of that, guys, can make a little bit of a swing trade attempt right here. Your stop would go below your most recent weekly higher lows right here at 90.7. And then at that point, we'd be targeting maybe the 106. So I do see maybe about $10 worth of upside for about maybe $5 worth of risk for a little bit of a swing trade. In terms of long-term portfolio, I do see a very nice condition to add here. But as I said, since it's a sector that's out of favor right now with the markets as a whole, I'm not expecting tremendous immediate recovery like this, but could be a very decent add for a long-term portfolio for a very decent legacy company that I really do believe has a great chance at reinventing itself in this modern age. So that's pretty much everything I had for you guys today. That was all a very big mouthful. Hopefully I gave you guys what you were looking for. And let me know, guys, down below in the comments if you like this format for sure. So as usual, consider liking the video, guys, if you enjoyed today's educational session or rundown technical analysis and fundamentals, right? Would really appreciate the like for the growth of the channel, guys. And consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. We do daily market recaps Monday through Friday, every day after the close. On Saturdays, we're going to be doing subscriber ticker requests. And on the Sundays, I got you guys with the top 5 options of the week. And as usual, guys, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want, leave it down below in the comments section. And I'll be very happy to answer you usually within the first 24 hours. So take care, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for the top 5 options video tomorrow evening on Sunday. Peace.